All right, good afternoon, everyone. I think we're ready to get started. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. My name is Paul Peddle, Traffic Safety Chair. And I thought Sean was going to join us today, but no Sean today, huh?
Sean is on vacation.
He's on vacation.
A previously scheduled vacation, so
Okay.
I'm here tonight. But
Eventually, you'll be
he'll
here.
be attending to fill his seat.
Yep,
Ask anybody else here to sign in.
yep, we have a sign-in sheet if you haven't signed in yet. It's on the podium. There's an agenda up here as well, I think. All right, did everyone get a chance to review the minutes?
Sure did.
from Last meeting, April?
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of the April 7th, 2025 Traffic Safety Committee as written?
Bob Ramsey will second it.
Second, Bob. Any discussion, amendments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And against? No? All right, motion to accept our April 2025 minutes is passed. All right, so we have the agenda, we have a few items in unfinished business. Just make sure I got the right agenda here. Sorry. Yeah, that's good. All right, Kelly slipped in the end there. All right, under unfinished, there was a discussion in our last meeting about the intersection of Mammoth, Griffin, and South Road.
Correct.
It never fails that right after our meeting, because that's my intersection I come out of, accident. Right
No
after.
doubt.
It happens every time we bring that intersection up. I just happen to see it, you know?
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, since the April 2025 meeting, again, it has been determined that the reported accidents were not incapacitated. If you remember, that was, so an accident has to be result in incapacitation in order for the state to look at it as an RSA, the safety study that DOT will do. So again, while that's a state intersection, it was not determined to be a incapacitating result, or any of the accidents did not result in an incapacitating injury. So it does not fall under that RSA.
What is the time frame for that?
Jason had done it it was a 10-year period. It was between October of 2014 to October of 2024.
Because we did have a fatality there.
It was not related to the cause of the accident.
Okay.
It was a fatality, but it was medical related.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so there was 31 recorded accidents, 61% were attributed to failure to stop or yield. The right-of-way and the stop signs, other contributing factors including speeding violations at 12% and driver distraction at 10%. So the bottom line is, again, totally understand, again, it's an offset intersection. So in order for us to do anything, town of Londonderry needs to budget money to look at that intersection, and budget money to study it and to do some future improvements. And that way, and that's how we approach DOT and ask that we want to fix our driveway. I always refer to it as our driveway.
Right.
Because it's a town road to a state road.
What do we do with this item, John? Do we leave it on?
Again, like I say, unless we have an allocation of budgeted money, nothing more we can do at this time.
Can we kick it up to the town council to include in the next budget?
I think that's what we should do. Yep.
So Kelly, I know you're gonna talk later about the process that you're trying to put in place, so this would, eventually, we're gonna have to have a list of these intersections with some prioritization of how they're addressed, because, there's a lot of them in town.
Exactly, so the town manager Mulholland's trying to, and has already begun drafting an initial traffic policy, which is what I'll talk just briefly about later on, or whatever you deem it appropriate. And then ultimately coming up with a plan to address these traffic concerns, most of which have already been brought to this committee in some way or another. And then ultimately determining the appropriate way to fund such things. But yes, there needs to be a level of discussion and then prioritization about what makes sense to do first, and things like that, how to proceed.
So do we remove this from the agenda with a statement that will be brought up after there's more clarity on the procedures that might be in place, or do we leave it on there?
I think it's appropriate to remove it at this time, given that the town manager's made clear that traffic management is a priority, and like I say, there's policies being developed and a plan that's ultimately gonna be put into place. So I think that with this particular example, it's noted and is on our radar, so like John said, there's really nothing, at least as far as I can see, for this committee to do yet.
So I would make a motion to remove this from the agenda until we get further clarity from the town manager about the new processes in town.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, so we will, again, keep that on the radar. We obviously have to keep it on the radar somewhere, but future discussion, it's been on here more than once. Update to the townwide speed limit.
I put this on the agenda because I thought maybe we could get an update from Ron about what the town council has done,
Did that
because
come up?
I don't think so.
It hasn't been brought to the
I
town
don't think it
council.
showed up on the agenda, did it?
I think it was at the last meeting, Bob, that we discussed it.
I thought we made a motion to put it, send it to the town council.
Right.
Yep.
Correct. I just don't think it's been presented to them yet.
Okay. So we'll just
So leave that one on.
keep this on.
And I think that will coincide with what Kelly was referencing to Sean's future plans.
Okay.
I think that item would be helpful for a lot of the concerns that we're hearing from the residents.
At least part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to keep it on, or just we leave it there?
I don't think you need a motion. I think you can just leave it.
All right, so we'll keep that on the agenda and see where it goes over the next few months. Coriana Rosia, I get that right? Longwood Road, closed to through traffic? Oh, Is
I'm not
Corian
sure.
here?
I'm not sure if that was an overlap from the last meeting. It does sound familiar.
Yeah,
I
no, we definitely
believe-
talked about it, yeah.
Yes, I believe the PD, we did directed patrols off of Wilson to that area as well. And obviously, the PD, I don't think we haven't had anything else come back on that, correct? Just the Wilson Road
I believe
updates,
we've
but,
tried to get the sand trailer out there.
Yeah.
I don't have that data on me right
Yeah.
now. though.
so that one, we can just say that it's still in the works, but as far as shutting it down to no through traffic, I think that would be a conversation for police fire to really think about what is the appropriate action over there. As we know through historic research in our community, anytime there's a road, as Bob calls them, a collector road, or what we would call them, a cut-through, you're gonna have this type of traffic everywhere in town.
Right.
As it's been heard here, back when Janos was sitting, John and others, this oftentimes has a tendency to create everyone that has a cut-through road want this before the town. I think, my 2 cents, at times it helps ease congestion in areas too, but there's also, it's a catch-22 for the residents that live on them as well. So I think we can continue to monitor that from the PD standpoint on Longwood.
Okay,
But, you know, the procedure isn't to close roads in town. We did it once, and it was a very bad idea at that point, so I think I'll make a motion to remove this from the agenda.
I'll second it.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
We have an aye?
Aye.
Yep.
Can we just make sure that that's not Karina?
It could be.
You're not Karina Rosso, are you?
Me?
Yeah.
No,
Nope.
Okay.
we're just intruding.
No,
Oh,
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
Just want to make sure before we moved on that you weren't here for something.
Oh, well,
Okay.
I am, yes.
Perfect, good.
For another one.
Good.
Different reason.
Yeah, as development continues on that area too, you know, it's gonna continue,
Yep.
right, in that area.
Clover Lane.
All right, this was a continuation as well, Maureen Hardy. And Clover Lane speeding concerns, and we kind of tabled it to take a closer look at it. Might have been PD as
Would
well.
you
maybe
say your
looking at
name, say your name and address, please, ma'am?
I'm Maureen Hardy, 13 Clover Lane.
We can share.
I didn't bring this last time. I added some.
Yep,
I added some suggestions to it. went through most of this last time, so I just wanted to hit the highlights. We're coming to you for help. Our street was approved last fall. Clover Lane and Lorden Commons in northwest Londonderry. We are very dense residential. We have 134, mostly three-bedroom homes on half-acre lots. Our street, Clover, is basically a straight line, so it's like a speed strip for especially the delivery. Cala is our cross street. It's a little more curved, but it recently had a traffic circle removed, and so is newly straighter, so there's more speeding there. Neighbors are cognizant of speeds, but delivery drivers like DoorDash, Walmart, or Amazon tend to go quite fast. An Amazon van almost hit us yesterday. When Old Dairy Road is closed due to a downed tree or power line, our street, Clover and Cala, become like a shortcut to the other side of the obstruction. The main issue, since we have no sidewalks, is that we have many babies and small children who live on the street. I estimated 70 to 90 children, mostly small, but also preteens and teens. We have moms and grandmas. There's one of our moms there. Walking these babies in strollers on the street. Children dropped off by the school bus often must walk in the street a few houses to get home. We want our children outside in fresh air playing and not inside on screens. Playing together outside is so much better. Electric and hybrid cars, while they have an artificial noise generator, they're still very quiet and can sneak up on a pedestrian. So we're asking for some way to slow down the traffic. We have turtle crossing signs on 2 of the bridges, but they only face in one direction of traffic. So the other direction of traffic can't even see slow for turtles. I would like to hope, I don't know, that's a terrible sentence, that we lower the speed limit for dense residential areas, because we're getting more and more of those in town. I'm suggesting a 20 to 25 mile per hour for all dense residential neighborhoods in town. If we can't do that, can we put a yellow line on the side of the road, maybe 3 feet from the curb as a designated walk area? And I took a picture of this when I was walking somewhere else. Put that in our designated walk area. Can we paint the word slow across the street? Just paint it, very large letters. Can the police department place 1 or more of those speed feedback signs or radar speed signs in the roads with warnings to slow down? Or can you place pneumatic road tubes or traffic counter tubes on Clover, both before and after the bridge? This way you could see what's really happening. And then our last thing was to put stop signs at regular intervals along the streets. That's it.
Okay, so there's a few options you presented there. Anything else as far as?
I'll go last on this one. If anybody else wants to go first, by all means.
I'm gonna look at regarding the turtle crossing, Maureen, because again, that was a requirement from the Conservation Commission, and there's no, those signs are not intended to slow people down whatsoever,
Okay,
by recollection,
yeah. I thought you were gonna go look at them and maybe turn one of them around.
and I apologize, I have not.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah,
I need to look at it, and see
because
what the intent was.
I guess you guys don't do slow children signs. No.
We do those in?
No, we do not.
Excuse me, I'll just intercept a little bit. The state's against slow children because it's a demeaning situation with the handicapped community.
Okay,
That's why the signs were done away with. I happen to know that because I have a son that's handicapped, and we were involved in that, so that was one of the reasons supposedly that sign disappeared.
okay.
And what's the town's thoughts on painting slow across the roadway because it is a straightaway? You know, we've looked at stop signs before, and that went all the way to town council.
Again, in my opinion, even painting the word slow across the roadway
It's gonna
doesn't,
slow anybody?
Exactly.
And as far as the 20 and 25 mile an hour speed limit, we've dropped speed limits in this town. When I first came to the town, there was roads in this town that were 55 miles an hour. In most of southern New Hampshire, if you drove in any of the rural areas, 55 was a given speed in some of the roads. Since then, they've dropped down to 30 miles an hour in most places. 25, you don't see a lot of it unless it's a suggested speed. And essentially, based on my driving around the area, nobody pays any attention to speed limits. If they did, they wouldn't be doing 118 miles an hour on 93. So dropping the speed limit doesn't do anything except cost the town money, because people who are gonna obey them. And the town had a chance to do something about the speeding in this town by putting on the ballot, hiring 3 officers that would do nothing but traffic control, and the town voted it down 2-1. So it's very difficult. We also put a ballot for 102 to drop the speed limit down there, and the town voted against that also. So it's very difficult when we can't get the support of the people to help the police force do the enforcement that they need to do because they can't get the manpower.
Is 25 an enforceable speed?
We went over this last time, so there's mixed opinions about this. The way that I read it is yes, because prima facie, the posted speed limit, right? I think that the important thing here is we've been talking about this for years now. A townwide 30 is beyond needed in this community, beyond. We have seen the airport development blow up in the last 15 years. We've seen northern Londonderry, south, you name any part of town, and it's blown up. All we're doing is procrastinating what we need to do. We need to reduce the townwide to a 30 as soon as possible. I think to the next part that we've talked about, as Maureen pointed out, what about these small areas? I'll give you an example, Lane Road, those of you familiar off of Litchfield Road. There's probably 8 houses and it's a cul-de-sac. If that's a 35, you're out there on that small little cul-de-sac road. That is flying. If someone is doing 5 or 10 over, what are we gonna do? We're gonna write someone for doing 5 over? I mean, we start to look at what is reasonable and prudent and what is crazy. But if we started tackling this, the big picture first, reduce the town to a 30, then we start looking at these condensed zone areas and take a logical approach to, does it make sense to reduce them to a 20 or a 25? I think the answer is yes. To answer Maureen's other question, is it appropriate or can we place tubes or speed devices? We have done that. I don't know when you moved in there, but we've done it more than once up in that area. We've had complaints before with FedEx and Amazon. We've reached out to the warehouse here in town. And a lot of times, as we discussed, a lot of these people have subcontractors that work out of there. So not everybody gets the message. We've talked about when we did the tubes in the SAM trailer. We have once a Pelican box we put on telephone poles. We've used those too. Can we do it again for you and your community? Sure. Not sure if a lot's gonna change in the data we had last time. Last time, I don't quote me here, but I thought last time the average speed was 38. I'm almost sure. So at the same time, when people see a police car, they stand out like a sore thumb. Everyone's good. Everybody's slow. The moment we're gone, it happens, it picks up again. This is historically proven from all the data that we do. When we do these data sheets and the tracking, it's just better than a cop sitting out there with a notepad and doing tick marks. You can't get any better than this. What we have to do is, I think, again, hit the areas of concern, the areas that are most dangerous in our community. We've been doing that historically. Was it 5 years ago, we did Litchfield?
Yep.
5 years ago, we dropped Litchfield to a 30.
Temporarily, supposedly.
Before that, I think it was 11 or 12, when they reduced, you were on the committee back then with Janos, high range to a 30. We put all these stop signs up at Old Mammoth Road. I don't know if the DC or the operations captain can say or not. I don't know how many, if any, complaints we've got from speeding or anything from that part of the town. I haven't heard anybody call me. I haven't got emails about it. I would assume, to your point, stop signs. I may be the one up here that gets the eyebrow. Maybe they're effective. I mean, we have an example where it works. Other people we've heard say at traffic safety committee meetings where it's a nuisance. Now they gotta go around. But we can't have it the both ways for everybody. Some people like a cut-through. Some people don't want it in their yard. They don't care if it's not in their yard. But I think the biggest thing we can do is wrap this town up in a 30 everywhere except for the state roads, and then start hammering these areas of concern like yours, like other communities where it's like that. I think it makes sense. So while you're standing here today, not to waste your time, yes, we can do some more patrols in your area. Yes, we can put the trailer, the data collector back out there again. And we can start doing that some more.
I think you did that on Cala, because I moved in 2021 on Clover, but Clover was just approved, so it was not a town road until the fall of '24. So
right.
maybe if you could put at least on Clover.
Okay? So the
Both.
deputy chief is writing, because I can see him, and I guarantee you he's gonna say he's on it.
Okay.
And just to give you a little bit more,
I found the data from 21, and you have a pretty good memory. The highest speed was 37, which 99.3% of the vehicles were under 30 miles per hour. On that, so.
and just to give you a little bit more history, on a high-range road, when we decided, that was considered a collector road, which is not supposed to be down at 30, it should have stayed at 35. The town council changed that to 30, and we had half of the residents on that road up in arms about it being dropped. And about 4 or 5 years later, there was a petition given to us to put it back to 35 miles an hour. So essentially, we've got a real schism in here. And I think with what Kim wants to do with the 30 miles an hour, I think that would be helpful to the police department, because now they have one speed in town. They don't have to worry about what the speed limit is on the road that they're patrolling. They know they're all 30 miles an hour, and that's one of the reasons why it came up for the consistency of it. But we have a problem where most people, there's a big divide about getting a slower speed limit than some of the people. And we've had a number of situations where we had people coming in complaining about how bad the speed was. And why can't we do anything about it? And one of the individuals came in and got an officer a little bit upset, so he'd done some checking and found out that that individual had 3 tickets for speeding on his own road. So, you know, this is the kind of dynamic that we run into trying to enforce and give the people what they want with safe traveling.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a piece of Gilchrist that's 30 now?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are already puzzle pieces that are probably hard for you to enforce.
It's, while Bob's statement is accurate, I mean, a townwide 30, it's not just for simplicity for patrol officers, it's for everybody driving. A lot of times, most cars today have dashboards, right? And they tell you how fast you're going and all these things, and your screens and all that. A lot of times, if you're new to a town, you're cutting through going to work, most people aren't paying attention to when they come into a new road or a cut through. They're just used to the route. But if you come into a town like Bedford has it, I think Amherst and some others, everywhere where you come into town, it says entire town is 30 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. So I think for the sense of convenience, yes, but more so for the sense of safety. Because as I've said many, many times for a decade now, the average speed that people generally do is 10 over, because we've all been ingrained for so long through society and driving. If you do 5 or 10 over, you're fine, you won't get pulled over. This is why we always see these trends are 5 or 10 over. Reasonable and prudent is what's defined. And, you know, we try really hard to enforce, and probably in early 2000, 2003 to 6 range, we had about 300 and something roads in town. We have over 500.
Yeah.
So
And
these
more.
roads and these developments keep on building, people keep coming. And as I said earlier, we've seen the development. Hardy Road to the airport doesn't look like what it used to look like 15, 18 years ago. You know, and it's only gonna get busier. So collectively, yes, it's time. I don't know why we haven't done it yet. I know you mentioned that the voters didn't approve it, which is true. But if people want to take safety and the concerns in the entire town, that's a good place to start, in my opinion.
And adding everything to what Kim just said, the additional problem of GPS, which is taking people through shortcuts and cut-throughs and so forth, who are in a hurry because they wouldn't be taking the cut-through if they weren't in a hurry, so they're gonna go faster. So we have a whole bunch of things coming together.
Yeah, we see that. That it?
All right, so is that,
John,
the plan for that now is to check
it-
that off?
how about putting that fog line? Is that a possibility, John?
in order for them to be walking on the road,
Yeah.
well, typically, again, Dan, the roads shouldn't be, I know you don't shoot the messenger, the roads are not designed to have a walking lane in them right now. So again, it's something totally new.
But if we did that, for sake of conversation, if we put, are those 6, 8 feet wide?
That's, yeah, and that's just it.
So that now we're taking that traffic, we're pushing it closer to the middle of the road,
Correct.
and therefore people don't have anywhere to go, because there
Correct.
is no sidewalks or curbing
So
for,
it needs to be looked into much further.
probably
than just
makes
saying,
not as safe.
exactly. And then what happens when you have the car because they do park on the street? on
They do.
Clover and
Oh, yeah.
Cala. So then you have that obstacle. So it gets complicated.
Okay.
Just hate to do a knee-jerk reaction. Make sense, Dan?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So just to stop the path, we are gonna do something with,
Yeah, we'll have
Putting
them
something out there.
monitor, what was the question she put in here?
I'll do another study at Clover. as a-
Clover, yep.
yep.
See what we can-
And then there's talk about the townwide speed limit, so I mean, that needs to get back into discussion again.
You know what the unfortunate thing, Paul, is these things don't happen at the rate we as humans would like them to.
Right.
And part of it's the human nature of it that slows things down.
Right.
If it was simple as the town council can wave the wand next week or tonight, that'd be great.
Yep,
And I think we're getting there.
And the turtle signs.
I'll take a
That's
look
him.
at it.
I have nothing to do
well, the
with
turtle signs, of course, yeah.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you again for coming in, Maureen.
What do we do with this agenda? Do we leave it on or take it off?
No, I think we can take this off, and we're gonna address it that way, unless you wanna check into it next week, you think? Oh, sorry, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob LeBrew, live at 76 Hall Road. With all due respect to others that have spoken, I'm opposed to the blanket approach, one big wide paintbrush and a town-wide speed limit. I don't think it makes sense. Not all roads are the same. I mean, does a lower speed limit make sense in tight, what I mean by tight is cul-de-sac, small residential streets? Probably. And what that number is, I'm not here to recommend, but I don't think 30 is the right number for streets that got already downgraded to 30. I've had this conversation where I live. It's 30. I should have never been lowered to 30. Should have stayed at 35, just like Litchfield should have, just like High Range should have. I don't think 30 is the right approach. And I think that I understand the emotion, not the science. I understand the science too, but I'm going to speak first to the emotion. Everybody wants it to go slower in front of their house in their neighborhood, worried about their kids. I get it. Okay, I understand where they're coming from. But human nature is not to go as fast as you can. And, well, mostly. But it's to feel comfortable. And, historically it's shown, and studies have proven this out, according to the Manual for Uniform Traffic Safety Safety Devices, that traffic tends to move safest and most comfortably at 87th percentile. In other words, 87% of the traffic is traveling at this speed for this road. That's probably where the speed limit should be set if you want a realistic speed limit. And you can put all the 30 zones you want on, but it's just not practical for a lot of streets. I'm not saying not all streets. And just for a quick example, little piece, the southernmost piece of Harvey Road branches off where High Range ends, and it goes down to Litchfield Road. Does that make sense to have a lower speed limit? Sure. But Harvey Road going past Delta Drive and out by the airport, not so much. I think that needs to be 35. That's got a lot of traffic on it, and it's the kind of traffic that's going to move, a lot of commuters. And I just don't think that the townwide speed limit is a good idea. And if you do pass townwide speed limit, you're going to get, absolutely pepper sprayed or pelted with requests to change this street, that street. So which way do you do it? Do you go townwide at 35 and at 30, and then you're going to forever be hearing about, I want this changed, I want it back up, I want it higher? Or do you leave things where they are and on a case-by-case basis say, okay, this street needs to be 30. 25, that's really slow, but there may be some instances of that. But again, the obeyance thing, I mean, it's human nature. If you feel comfortable at a certain speed on a certain road, that's probably where you're going to settle in at for the most part. So, you know, I think if we start going down the townwide speed limit thing, I think we're going to end up going down a rabbit hole with that. And I just want to say that I'm strongly against it. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Bob.
There's another hand.
Oh, someone else want to talk? Tony? Who was it?
Oh, I thought there was another hand.
Nope.
Nope, sorry.
Thanks. All right, so do we want to remove this and handle it as far as the townwide speed limit is concerned and what you're gonna,
I think the recommendation earlier was to discuss with town council.
okay, for the 30? Yeah,
Yeah, I'll make a recommendation to remove Clover Lane
okay.
in anticipation of the town council's move.
Do I have a second?
Yep, I'll second it.
We'll follow up with Maureen Hardy in reference to her request for Clover as well, once we're complete.
Yeah, good.
All in favor?
Any against? All those in favor?
Aye.
We did
Aye.
that. Against? All right, so we'll remove that from the agenda.
Yep.
With those follow-up items. All right, moving on to new business, yeah.
No, you're good, yep.
Mr. DeFrancesco,
You can cover both at the same time.
Kelly, is there a chance that we could use the signs and put up,
Do you have a,
no, either in the GIS or in, whatever maps, Google Maps you have? To put up
for you, Tony, I'll move and I'll bring it up.
Sections, please. You're the best, I don't care what they say.
oh, geez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony DeFrancesco. I'm here for two things tonight. If it's okay with you, I'd like to start with Gilchrist.
Okay, yeah,
Is that all right?
yeah, yeah.
So I have some handouts to share.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'll chair him, yep.
All right, I can leave this.
No, I can.
You're special.
We can share.
They can't keep pictures.
They're going up fast.
Where am I going first?
Gilchrist at
This
Boston.
is where that old restaurant used to be.
That's across, this is usable.
So again, thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony DeFrancesco. I'm here tonight as a citizen to have a chat. Before I start on this, on the previous article, I think, Bob, it was you, quite a few years ago, had an example of putting a car on a road with a walker. And the car was metered at 35 miles an hour. When the car went by the walker was then asked, how fast was that car going? And it was done on several occasions. And 100% of the time, the walker said 50. But the car was only going 35. Connect your own dots. How'd I do, Chief?
You've done good, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
So we have, two things. One, and this was all driven by clients, former clients, friends, enemies, and people that like to talk to me for various reasons. So we're going to start tonight on Gilchrist Road. We have one project that's finished and two projects that are ongoing. The project that I'd like to talk to you tonight is something luxury
Juniper.
condos. Juniper Ridge?
Yeah.
Thank you. That development is going to have a natural four-way intersection right at Boston. It's going to be pretty much a full square 90 degrees. The developer will have stop signs in his own, to come out of his own program, his own development. The planning board have had several discussions about making it a four-way intersection. There was a consensus, but there was nothing put on the plan. There was no instructions given to the developer that said, make it a four-way stop sign intersection. The folks down the way at Tokenel and Ross, thank you, Ron. Ron Bouchard lives on Ross Drive, had been asking for something. We came to you and we went to town council previous year to try and get something at Tokenel or something at Ross. That was shot down for pretty good reasons. It's on a hill. It's going to be a problem trying to get people to stop there, although I will say I get around and I've been to lots and lots of municipalities, both in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, all of New England, and a bunch of middle states that have snow, and a lot of them have stop signs on hills. However, that's ancient history. My comments here tonight and my action item for you, if it's possible, would be for your group to suggest to the town council that there be a four-way stop sign at Gilcrest, Boston, and the new development. Makes sense. There will already be two stop signs there. One is already on Boston. You can see the white line. There will be one put in by the developer at the entrance and exit to their development. It will slow the traffic down. It will basically do the same thing as a stoplight, in theory, which will give the people at Ross and Tokenel a chance to get in and out of their development. And at the same time, it will provide some safety for the people trying to get out of this 96 home development. I think it's 96, don't hold me to that. Questions, concerns, problems on this thought?
That's the only entrance.
Sorry? They have two.
They'll have two entrances.
They have two. The one that they're actively using right now, which is where most of them are being built, is farther up. Yep.
Just on one side.
Kelly's going up there right now. Yep.
Just on their side.
So, yeah, so
There's no
what,
street across the street.
there isn't.
Okay.
And I was hoping that with the development across the street, the rental apartments, that there would be a natural one there as well. Didn't work out that way. So the hope is, and in talking with the developer for Juniper, chances are most of the people living there are gonna go around in their development to the street that has the stop sign, the four-way stop, because it's gonna be the safest way to get in and out. Ultimately, it's gonna be the fastest way in and out. So again, my action item for you for that would be to query the town council to say, could they direct somebody to do it, whether it's Public Works to put up the signs or whatever. Could the town manager, assistant town manager, planning director, town engineer ask the developer to buy the signs? I think it absolutely could. I think it's a good neighborly thing to do for the developer, but that's way beyond my pay grade. And I have no power to be talking to the developer about roads at all. So that was item number one. If you'd like to chat, ask questions.
My comment.
Public-
we should
public
be
comment.
following- And you all know that my position is we should be following the MUTCD book on placement of stop signs. Do not put stop signs to control speed. And again, you certainly do not put a stop sign on a main, the Gilcrest, which would, in my opinion, is the main road. The amount of traffic that's going down Gilcrest Road. You need to do a study, see if it's even warranted. It was not warranted during the approval process. They had looked at it. So,
So during the approval process, John, of these condos, a study was done and
they had looked at it, yeah.
Is,
it wasn't warranted?
It wasn't warranted.
I don't get the impression from what Tony's saying that we're looking to control the speed. I think we're looking to control the traffic flow to give the people in Ross and Tokenall a chance to get out
Spacing,
and control the speed.
traffic spacing.
Yeah,
Boston,
yeah.
yeah, not Tocumwell.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, for the 47 years that I've lived in Londonderry, we've done very little on traffic control, traffic mitigation, kind of traffic anything. We have done some, but I'm kind of at a point where my hair was turning this color, and now it's getting less and less hair, and I'm getting a little cranky like Bob sometimes, and I think we kind of need to get to a point where we're proactive instead of reactive. I think for 47 years I've been hearing we can't do that because we have to have a study. We can't do that. There's all kinds of reasons to not do something. We heard the same thing up at Old Londonderry at the Village. It's not Old Londonderry, at the Village. Can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. Well, you know what? I drive around town all day long because I have nothing else to do. And as far as I can see, that's a success up at the Village. That's working. There's a lot of stuff going around at the signalized intersection, which was the aim. But yet, what we heard was it's not going to work, it's a waste of money, I don't know why we're doing that, people aren't going to follow it. Well, what does it hurt to put stuff out? Whatever.
So when it came up at the planning board, it just stopped there?
So Kelly and I were talking about it, and I apologize, because as much as I'm prepared for meetings like this, I could not find the exact video of the meeting where we talked about it. The
So-
best we could remember was there was a consensus taken.
Yeah,
Not
so just, this is kind of a two-part. So there are two developments that are being referenced on Gilcrest, the Juniper Ridge, and then Gilcrest Commons, I think they're calling it. So staff recommended that they do a joint traffic study, so that way everything's being
Right.
inclusively looked at, right? So that's what happened. Through that study, which is based on our site plan regulation requirements for traffic, no stop signs, no additional
Right.
mitigation that's being talked about in this forum was warranted. Got that right? So, that was discussed at the planning board through the site plan review process. The planning board then had a separate discussion generally about Gilcrest Road and stated that they felt, their consensus as a board was that stop signs should be placed, as Tony has just outlined. And I don't remember the specific meeting, but there was a consensus of the planning board to say we should kick this to either traffic safety or ultimately the town council to see if that can be done or not. So you have something from an appointed board in town, the planning board, saying that they think this should be
Right.
looked at further.
So, and to be clear, when Kelly said the study showed that it wasn't warranted, that word warranted means you can't force the developer to do it.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you can't put calming measures into a street at any time. And there are many, many towns all over New England that do traffic calming methods. Go to the Canton, Massachusetts website, CANTON. They have a street just like High Range Road. You know what they did? They made it narrower. You know what they did? Every place there was a four-way intersection, they made it even more narrow. With a cute little divider with some plants and some trees and four-way stop signs. And there's a huge sign when you go into it with a massive tabletop, a short tabletop, so the fire trucks can go up it and not get damaged. And it says traffic calming area. And the road is 25 miles an hour. And it's as long as High Range Road, the exact same makeup as High Range Road, twists and turns, roads coming off, right, left, whatever. Canton, Massachusetts gets snow, they have a tabletop. Canton, Massachusetts has fire trucks, they have a tabletop. So I'm just at a point as a citizen where I'm tired of all the excuses, and I think it's time that we have action. I'm thrilled to hear from Kelly that the town manager is going to put a package together. That's great. Heard that before. And then town managers leave and they change, and then town planners say, yeah, we're going to do this, and town planners move to different places. I've heard all this before. But understand, the word warranted means you can't force the developer to spend any money. That's all that word means.
I got a question, Kelly. Doesn't the planning board have the authority to do that without having to come to the traffic safety committee if they said, we want to do a four-way intersection there?
So not necessarily. The planning board is really held to its statutory requirements and what our local ordinance states.
Okay.
And in this case, we're specifically talking about our site plan regulations and what we have currently for regulations with respect to traffic, and the studies that we require, and then the results of those studies. So that's why I was careful to point out that the result of those studies that were followed per our regulations, they met the requirements, and the result of the studies didn't warrant any additional mitigation or stop signs in this instance. And so the planning board, while they could suggest or ask nicely that the developer do that, they don't have the authority to require it without justification that's directly coming from a regulation or state law, which they didn't have in this instance. So this is the next step, either for the planning board or Tony as a resident to bring it forward and then go through the town council process.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing, yes? Yeah, public comment from anybody?
Is,
Go ahead, Bob. Yep.
Hi, Robert LeBrew, same address, haven't moved. And coincidentally, I've also been in this town 47 years. And I just, want to say that I am strongly opposed to the quote-unquote traffic calming. You don't realize, a lot of people don't realize is it not only inconveniences a lot of people, it actually upsets them. It actually can anger them because how did this come about? Why did this happen? Well, the people who want to keep the status quo are not the ones that come to these meetings. Let's face it. It's the people who want to change something. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here either. And so what am I doing here? I'm trying to maintain the status quo, I guess. Somebody's got to do it. But, the traffic calming it's really, it's a feel-good thing. Does it slow traffic down? In many instances, it does. Not always, but in many instances, yeah, it does. But it also, it can impact safety. It might not, but it can. So there's a lot more to look at there. But as far as, street narrowing, road diets, as they call it, choking it down, extra wide bicycle lanes, roundabouts, and the list goes up, speed humps and so on and so forth, speed bumps, humps, call them what you will. I don't think it's the answer. I know it goes back to the feel-good thing. I want to do something. But the thing is, there's roughly 26,000 other residents who aren't here at this meeting. And I don't know this, but I would dare think that a good majority of them don't want to see these things. They want to get to where they're going to go, and this is not the vision they had. This be appropriate in a certain area? Perhaps. But, on collector roads and other major roads, I think not. And if no one goes on record to stand up here and say, hey, I'm against this, I think we ought not do it, then, that's why I'm here.
I got a question for Robert. You live on Hall Road, right?
Yep.
Have you seen an increase on Hall Road since they put the stop signs on Old Mammoth? In the
Increase in
village?
traffic or speed?
Increase in traffic.
No.
No?
That's
No,
not
I-
really a fair question, because Hall Road isn't really affected by the stop signs on Mammoth Road, because most people are using Hall Road are coming out and taking a right to go on to Mammoth Road. They're not taking a left to go the
Yeah,
other way.
I agree. And in all fairness, I'm only in town 7 months out of the year. I get this problem with ending up in Florida for the winter, you know?
I travel that road at least once or twice, at least 4 or 5 times a week, because I'm old and I go to the senior center.
On Hall Road?
Yeah, and I don't see, the increase in traffic there is pretty much non-existent. The only thing that's increased in there is Federal Express and UPS, but not many cars do I see.
Yeah, I mean, the traffic, we've seen a lot of increase over the years with the development of the airport and all.
Right.
But, you know, that it is what it is, you know? And it's just for the record, when I moved out there, the speed limit on Hall Road was 25. And then it was an old, narrow, tarred road full of potholes and stuff. They widened it, put in a frost-free road bed, made it look pretty. Speed limit went up to 35, and everybody was happy till they lowered it down to 30. I'm off on a tangent. I'll sit down.
To be
One of the
clear,
things-
to be clear, I'm talking about 2 stop signs for Gilchrist.
Understand. To be a little bit clarity, one of the things that the Munt Manual does, and John, you can correct me on this, is ask for consistency. Because the consistency is what makes driving easier. And when I drive through Manchester, the consistency sucks. Because every other thing, there's a stop sign. Now, the problem that you have when we put something in one place, like when we put the stop signs in Mammoth Road, it was over the objections of this committee specifically. It solved the problem, but the problem now becomes everybody in the town wants to have a stop sign at their particular road, so we start losing the consistency. The speed limit is the same way. The roads are built to a specific level, and to be 85%, I think it is, of what they're traveling. So you got to be real careful. Putting the stop signs in, as far as I know, is within this committee's to do. We refused that. Jim Butler was the one that jumped the gun, and that's why it went to the council. But if we lose that consistency, we start losing a lot of other things, and that's why it's so hard to make a decision like you're asking us to do.
I understand.
Could you sign, when you finish doing your thing, would you sign?
Absolutely, I will.
Thank you.
The name is Ron Bichard. I live at 16 Ross Drive, which I have for 48 years. I was here when Gilchrist Road was mostly sand. So over the 48 years, yes, I've seen traffic and it's inevitable, and I understand that. But in anticipation of being here today, this morning as I was leaving for work, which means I'm leaving Ross Drive and heading west, that's west getting up to 102, right? Okay, there were 13 cars, north, whatever, heading up to 102.
You took a left.
I took a left. But there were 13 cars, okay? And it doesn't surprise me, because I know there's going to be a lot of traffic. But it wasn't the 13 cars. It's, as you look that way, you can only see a couple of 100 yards down the road. And in between sometimes car A and car B, where you think you can probably make a left, somebody comes screaming down that road. So whatever we can do, it's part vision, okay? And I don't know if there's anything that you can do to make it that we can see hell lot farther up the road. I'm not trying to stop traffic because I know it's going to be there, okay, regardless. But my main concern is that distance that you can have. It's a real short distance from where, like Boston, we'll say, and that type of thing. Once you get that head up, and I do, because I've been there all those years, and I'm a real PIA, I was doing 30 when it was 30. I do 35. On Friday, I had somebody pass me on the right, giving me the golden finger all the time, because that's what I do. And I slow down before I make a right onto Ross Drive, and people come whipping by me. And so, again, not that I'm Tony's wingman here, but I think the thing is if there's anything short, I think I had asked one time, I said, if you could put speed bumps, and that was said, no, that's a no-no. You can't go ahead and do anything like that. But I don't know if there's anything, if you don't put a speed bump, put a speed trap, one of the, something to slow it down. That was my only concern, is the fact that, again, of the 13, it was just, and it's somewhat bad coming the other direction, coming from South Road, but from Tokenal, you can go ahead and certainly see, and from Ross you can see, because you can see farther down the curve, okay? But it's that other direction, and I've only come close once, in the 48 years that I've been there, and I think that was pretty good. But again, just to let you know, I'm trying to reinforce Tony here, but that'd be fine by me if you do anything. But thank you for listening.
Thank you.
So if I can real quick, I know we're coming up on the hour here, but concern, is it speed or vehicles coming, going for you, Tony, on Gilchrist?
For me, it has nothing to do with speed, and it has everything to do with that four-way intersection and being able to space cars out
Okay.
more evenly than the light does, because now the light is there and they come down the hill and they just keep on going.
For Mr. Bishard, he was talking about speed too, so we did this at the last meeting, we had it's the box. If you see a Pelican
Sure.
box, don't shoot it, it's very expensive.
Yep.
But we put it out there, we've monitored that. We have traffic northbound and
I
southbound.
try and get a higher number every time I go by it.
Well, unless, if you can beat 76, actually, wait a minute, we know what you drive. You can beat 76. I know you. So, we did some data on that road. Believe it, that if I tell you that the average speed is 38 and a 35.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all, Chief.
Yeah, the fastest was one at 76. That's in a whole week, we had one. I mean, that could be a motorcycle, it could be a police car, it could be a fire truck.
I didn't go by that week, that's why.
Well, you were on vacation. So we have that.
Sure.
Of interest too, southbound lane, where we had this by Albany set up, southbound lane, we had 69 cars doing 40. And then the northbound lane, there was more people going faster northbound in that area than southbound.
Up the hill.
Yes, and Jason, the deputy chief, and I were talking about this earlier today, you would instinctively think it would be the other way
opposite.
around.
Yeah.
So we had 184 going north in that area. So, while we think that speed or egress or, whatever we want to talk about here.
Sure.
I think the concern is always going to be the amount of traffic that Londonderry has seen in your 40-something, his 40-something, and everyone in here who's lived here for so long.
Sure.
It's the same thing.
100%.
Traffic isn't going to go away.
No.
It doesn't matter what we do. But to your point, calming measures or something is better than tabling.
I would agree. And,
This is only going to get busier when
Sure.
Kelly, what is the projected build-out of this area? End of the year, maybe?
For these two developments?
Yeah.
Yeah,
mean, they're
they're on
cranking.
course to finish by end of year, for sure.
So I'd be willing to bet you that next year, we're going to be having a lot of residents come in concerning about all this traffic, and it's going to get worse.
Sure. We also have to understand, Chief, that the surrounding towns are also building out. And much of our traffic, I haven't studied it, but it's clear that much of our traffic is coming from other places, especially 102. Hudson, Nashua, all that stuff they built at the river or just the other side of the river is all coming this way every morning and all going back every afternoon.
A lot of the
So-
data historically from the PD, we see that when stops are made on 102, it's Hudson, Litchfield,
Sure.
Nashua residents,
Yeah.
quite often.
So even if we did stop building here, that's not gonna stop,
No.
anyway.
And Gilchrist is Wyndham, it's Wyndham and Derry.
We're gonna run out of time here, so, Mr. Chair, we're gonna run out of time. So I think what I'm asking for is a vote from your committee, if you're so inclined to do that, to inform the town council that you're interested in looking into this or whatever, studying this or whatever. One person's opinion. They don't call me Stop Sign Tony for nothing, and you caused that to happen, just saying. But I think I think it would be a help. I think it's warranted, and I would like your committee to move it along if you're so inclined. And then I can get on to my next item.
What do you think, guys?
Me personally, I don't have an issue with presented this to the town council looking for support or guidance or direction. I think given that we see that the vehicles traveling north on Gilcrest present more speeders than southbound, if anything, over time, maybe we see a reduction in the higher volume in the northbound lane.
Yeah, could.
That's just my 2 cents with a little I have.
So my only comment, Mr. Chair, is that I do think that this again falls within the town manager's current plans, going, with the, traffic policy and ultimately an actual plan. And I know Tony said he's heard it many times before, but, these things are currently in motion, but I do think it's still appropriate to bring to the town council at this stage, given, there's work to be done in terms of an overall traffic management plan for the
Right.
town.
Kind
I'm
of
not sure,
feeds into that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why would we bring it before the town council unless we're gonna make a blanket motion to move all of these specific problems that we have with the same problem to the town council. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we could decide or not decide to put this as a four-way stop under our own. We wouldn't have to go to the town council for it, would we, John?
I don't remember if we did it that way with Old Mammoth or not, but
Old Mammoth was a different situation where Jim had made the motion, and he made in the motion to push it before the town council.
You did it on Perkins and Bartley Hill.
Say what?
You did it on Perkins and Bartley Hill.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, we do put the stop sign in there.
So, I think possibly, to make sure we're not running into this thing, we might table this until we get some kind of guidance from Sean, which I know you don't like.
Well, I think, if I may, Mr. Chair, I think that a suggestion I have is that you could send some kind of a note, memo, whatever, to the town council to say, we're looking into this particular intersection, or we've discussed that particular intersection, or would like to start prioritizing these things, rather than just tabling everything that comes before you, which kind of doesn't make sense. No sense having meetings if you're going to do that. So, that just,
But many times there's studies involved, so.
yeah.
We asked the planning board for their opinion or
She
their
already,
recommendation.
she already gave them, I think she told them what the planning board said. Kelly, could you reiterate what you said about the planning board?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
asking
what,
more for a letter though, but, okay.
so the planning board had a discussion I think it was probably a year ago at this point, stating exactly what Tony's brought to you this evening, that they are favorable to putting in these stop signs. So I can certainly try and find the meeting minutes, but,
I don't know, I like Fred's idea, get something in writing from the planning board currently, what their thoughts are on that situation.
And are there other areas
It's been a
where
year.
they have recommended this and we haven't heard about that recommendation until a year later? I don't know, I'm asking, it's,
yeah, I don't recall off the top of my head, but, I think this is the forum where it's appropriate to bring these things forward for discussion. The planning board is reviewing case by case. They're always thinking, we've seen, something prior in this area, like in this example, we have 2 developments happening at the same time. But really their role is to look at what's before them.
What what Fred, I think, is getting at is the planning board came with the decision that they felt that this was appropriate. There should have been some kind of a push to us to let us know what they thought when they were doing the planning. That would be helpful, especially in that beginning phrase of that. And then we could look into, see if it is in fact something we should be doing.
I think that's a great suggestion procedurally.
Yeah.
Somehow,
I don't have an issue.
Yeah,
with it.
I
with
think
the
that's
town
what you're
manager
putting
working on the
together.
new system, maybe they could do something about that. So, we good to move on to the next one?
I think possibly what Paul or I could do is get in touch with the planning board chairman and ask him if he could put something in the procedure that says if they are recommending traffic fixes when they're doing the planning board, they could send some type of a memorandum to the traffic safety committee and let us know that this is what they felt at the time they saw it. It might speed up some of the problems we have.
Sure, I mean, I'm happy to bring that to the
Great
board.
idea.
Okay.
I'm there anyway.
Yep, great idea. Okay, so, you all set?
I think I'm gonna make a motion,
Sorry.
and Tony, you didn't do the other one. I
Not
hate to.
yet.
I'll make a motion on this one that we table this until the next meeting, so we can get a little bit more guidance and figure out which way we wanna go and have some discussion among ourselves without just shooting this,
But in the meantime, Kelly will take that to them?
huh?
Kelly will take that?
Yeah, Kelly told me to take that, but I don't think we need a motion on that, because Kelly will
Okay.
take care of it. So my motion is to table this particular one until the October meeting, so we can get a little bit more feedback and have a little time for discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion to table this to the next meeting with Kelly taking her part to the planning board.
Second.
We have a second?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Okay, so we'll go forward with that and continue that discussion.
Tony, you gotta speed this one up.
You guys kept talking.
No, that was good.
So the second thing that I have for you tonight, Mr. Chair, is Auburn Road 28 intersection, most notably Poor Boys Diner. You may remember, and John will correct me when I'm wrong, that when the state redid Rockingham Road at that intersection, that white island that you see, I'm gonna pick the short TV, I don't know why. This was originally scheduled to continue out to here. And several of the businesses, Ronnie Realty is right there, went to the state and said, no, no, you're not. We want our customers to be able to come in here into Auburn Road. Okay? This island was gonna go out, all the way out to here. The state wanted, and if you could advance it up Rockingham Road to its dairy, please. The state wanted all the traffic taking a left to go to the signalized intersection to Liberty Road and then go across the intersection to get into Poor Boys, Varani Realty, and whatnot. Okay? When the state said, okay, we're not gonna do that then, if folks don't want it, then we're not gonna extend that all the way out. But then they didn't do anything here either. Because this road, this junction, whatever, was gonna be different. There was gonna be a kidney there, there was gonna be something there, I can't remember exactly what it was. So what you have now is you have cars coming out of Auburn Road, taking a left across 4 lanes of traffic to go to Derry. Now what happens when you're driving a truck like I have, a full-size Tahoe or a Suburban or a box truck or whatever, and you're taking a left, the people on the right-hand side that are taking a right can't see. So now the whole intersection is jammed up. And you have cars backed up all the way around the corner because nobody can go, because the guy that wants to take a left, or the lady that wants to take a left, can't, because it's across 4 lanes of traffic. Okay? So what makes sense to one person is that, and if you look farther into your, well, actually, it's page 1. If you look at page 1 of the handout, you can see that I have one arrow going to the right on your sheet, and that is Independence Drive, which brings you to the signalized intersection and to Derry. You close down the end of Auburn Road, no left-hand turn there, the same way that you did on Perkins Road, right up the street, which is the last page of the 4 pages that I gave you. That's Perkins Road. No left turn there, only rights. I'm suggesting that for this road too. Page 2 shows you taking a left at Independence, taking a right at whatever that spur road is to the intersection, and now going to Derry. That was the state's plan all along. What I'm saying is, let's finish what was supposed to be there however many years ago it was. I'm also suggesting that where the crosswalk is on page 1, that little red blurb that I have there would be some kind of a crosshatch, hoping that people won't block off people going into Poor Boys Diner or Varani Realty, because when that happens, people can't get off of Rockingham Road, which is also causing a traffic problem because the cars are all backed up because that's a single lane road. Okay, that's the real quick explanation. I'll take your questions.
Signage
So that's the same problem we run into the other way, the driveways onto the state road. We have to talk to them before we can do anything. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. But we gotta come here first.
So if
How does it get onto that agenda?
you can go this way, turn around here, come back out, and then go.
Well, the idea is, what you're trying to do is just eliminate them from getting back to Rockingham Road and taking a left. So Tony, as part of the Mill Pond, the PUD, they're looking at this intersection as well.
Okay,
So those changes may come
okay.
as a result of whatever Mill Pond, their traffic shows.
Okay.
Again, that's planning board, Mill Pond, what you guys are already dealing with?
So
yeah,
that's
it's
not been formally submitted.
Yeah,
Okay.
To the
but
planning
that-
board?
That'll be part of that process?
If the,
Maybe.
if the state is considering this,
the state already considered it, that's the point. All I'm saying is, let's
I'm
finish
saying,
it.
John says there's something, you said there's something else going on.
Yeah, so Mill Pond, as part of Mill Pond's future development out there, Bob, they were looking at this intersection.
Would it make sense for Tony to get what he's just given to us, to them?
To Mill
like-
Pond? Mill Pond already knows that there's a
Okay.
problem. So,
Because-
so the problem,
Okay,
what it would be is that if we do feel that it is a concern of that intersection, then we need to bring it to DOT's concern, or attention. But again, totally understand, Tony, when I go through that intersection, I take a left on Independence.
Sure.
Because I know the intersection.
Yep, and quite a few people do.
yeah.
Only takes one, right?
Oh, I know.
Only takes one, and the
Yep.
whole thing is gridlocked.
So again, even more than
Yeah.
where we're naysayers, DOT looks at it and,
Understood.
The-
So I did
point-
some quick financial analysis.
Well-
We're talking less than 10 grand to do what I'm
The
asking.
point that I'm making is, in the beginning of your presentation, you said that Pool Boy and a couple of other people went to the state and said, we don't want that.
No.
And-
What
well,
they
so-
said
They don't,
was,
they don't want this.
they don't want, they
No,
don't
I
want
understand
this
that.
extended.
No, that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, some people went to the state about something,
Yes.
and the state listened to them. Maybe it's time for you, through Mill Pond, to go to the state as an interested observer and some what you just said to us. Just a suggestion.
Yeah. I'm talking today. Mill Pond is a wish. Mill Pond is a hope. Mill Pond is,
But wouldn't it
So I
still?
Mill
think-
Pond is nothing right now.
If I could just add, so as I keep going back to this every time, and a concern is raised about traffic. I do think in this instance, though, given that we're talking about communication with DOT in this particular district that we're in, the town manager and other staff are planning to have conversations with DOT District 5 specifically to talk about things like this. And so if this is something that we can bring to those meetings as it's a priority for the town, we certainly have the ability to do that. That way Tony doesn't have to try and track down a potential development.
And I wasn't looking to Tony because those same people must be concerned with the people not being able to get to where they want to go easily, so that if they talk to the state like they did before to get rid of that middle thing, it might be a help. But I guess based on what Kelly just said, and I know you're not going to like this, should we
Yeah.
table this until we have
But
something back? from-
but the problem with your comment, Bob, is now it's backwards. When the people in that area said, we don't want that island going all the way across Auburn Road so people can't take a left off of Rockingham, that was at a public hearing that the state had.
Oh, okay.
Now what we're trying to do is back into it, right?
The town would make more sense going to them than,
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what you're asking, Tony, is for this committee to provide its opinion, essentially,
Yes.
or consensus, whatever you want to call it. That way, we, being ultimately the town manager, has something to refer back to saying, well, this was raised in a public meeting with traffic safety, and this was the opinion of that committee. And I think that's more than appropriate and is well within this committee's purview to do.
is that something you would do, John, or?
all in all due respect, I don't see a problem with that intersection.
Oh, I disagree, but
Okay.
But I want to piggyback on what Kelly said, and I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to notify both the town manager and the planning board that we have concerns with this intersection, especially if there's increased traffic in there. And he can have that on his list of things that we're concerned about. That's for discussion.
You want to make a motion?
Do you want to talk about it, or? I'll make a motion that we, the chair, draft a memo to the town manager and to the chair of the planning board expressing our concern with the current state of this intersection as well as proposed development on this road. Just informing everyone our concern.
Okay.
Is there a
All
second?
right. Is there a second?
Second.
Kelly seconded.
You good?
Discussion?
All right, discussion? All those in favor?
Is there discussion?
Aye.
Any
Are you,
discussion?
did you second? I just seconded it. I didn't second for discussion.
Sorry.
Did you?
Any
I
additional?
heard you second it.
Yes, you seconded, I'm just agreeing yes to
Yes.
move it along.
Aye.
Move it on.
Good.
Move it on.
Got you, loud and
Great.
clear.
Yep.
All in favor?
Yep, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Right, no one, none opposed, right?
Thank you, Kelly.
Sure.
15-minute warning.
Yeah, saw that.
Kate McDonald, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm sorry. Maureen Hardy, 13 Clover.
yes.
I drive that all the time. I just wanted to say I take Independence now because I don't want to deal with
Yeah.
28. I cannot turn left on there. But I'm worried about Independence not being able to handle all of that both ways. You can't see the other corner. There's no stop signs there. And there's people coming out of this big business. So I think if you do that, you're going to have to put stop signs on Independence before you get to the stoplight. And it's very narrow, and the rail trail is right there.
Okay.
So a lot of cars are parked on Independence. So I think you need to take a careful look at Independence before you start sending.
Streams of traffic.
And I believe there's no stop sign because that would cause a traffic problem on 28.
Back up.
As far as I know, that's why it hasn't been done.
Because actually Independence is the main road, not a four-way stop.
Right.
It's only on Independence.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Back there, there's this big factory or something,
Yep.
and they're emptying out, and you can't see them coming. Liberty.
So waste management is back there,
Yeah, so,
and a couple of other commercial.
yeah, I'm just saying, you really need to look at Liberty and Independence before you do that, because the people parked for the rail trail and people walking there, and the people coming out of waste management. That's all.
Thank you.
I talked to Kate McDonald about the speeding on High Range Road, and I told her that essentially I gave her the history that I already gave here earlier about High Range Road and some of the problems we ran with it, and about the election and a few other things. And I also told her that I know the police department has roving patrols on High Range all the time, and that we were doing our best to control what's going on there, and she seemed to be satisfied. Hopefully she'll give me a call if she isn't, and let me know if she wants to be back on the agenda.
I think this feeds into our other discussions as well. Side range.
So table it?
I don't think we need to table it. I think it's an ongoing problem, and we're doing what we can.
So we have a motion to remove it.
I'll make a motion to remove it from the agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, we have a motion to remove that, and it's part of our speed limit discussions and calming discussions. All right, Lisa Sussman? Hardy and Pillsbury intersection.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Lisa Sussman, 128 Hardy Road. Would you mind, Kelly, bringing up that intersection for me? Thank you so much. I'm just here to talk about the intersection of Pillsbury, how it kind of makes that S turn, and then Hardy Road, and how the Gilcrest feeds into it.
You're talking about the three-way?
Yep.
The three-way. So the northbound, southbound traffic has stop signs, but the folks coming east on Pillsbury do not have a stop sign. But logic tells you if you're either going north or south and you're stopping, that the intersecting traffic stands to reason they should be stopping too, but they don't. So I drive through this intersection 2 to 3 times a day, and I creepy crawl through there because it's so scary going through there because people get confused. They don't understand. So I have a pretty inexpensive solution that might work for the town. Just simply putting a sign.
A stop sign?
Already a stop sign there, Tony. A sign under the stop sign that says traffic from the left or right, as the case may be, does not stop. Easy. Another way to do it would be to rework the intersection into a proper T with a 3-way stop. Because if you're going north on Pillsbury and you want to continue north onto Hardy, the sight line around that corner is really bad. And Mr. Woolley of DPW, is he? Hi. Said that he would trim back the growth as much as he could, but there's only so much you can do right there.
And giving you a little bit of history of that road, at one point, we had that concern, and one of the things we did is we moved the stop bar. That's the white sign on the ground.
Right,
We moved it farther north.
right.
And I
So
think-
now
I'm
when
not
you're,
sure- I'm not sure whether we can move that stop bar any farther north, can we? Because it's the line of sight for the people coming north that's the real problem.
understood, but when you stop at that stop bar, now you're halfway into the intersection. So now if somebody is coming east on Pillsbury, wanting to go north on Hardy, and I'm already halfway in the intersection, now we're at kind of an impasse.
So years ago, we had looked at that intersection and making it a 3-way intersection. But again, one problem that we have out there is just the amount of real estate that we need for the trucks. Granted, trucks shouldn't be out there. And again, just, that's why it's such a large intersection. It's such a large radius for people heading easterly on Pillsbury Road. So we had looked at that at one time, Susan, but again, there was just no way to put that stop sign with a stop bar in keeping people in their own lanes.
Okay.
So one of the possible solutions, and again, we keep saying we're kicking the can down the road, is again, possibly a mini roundabout in that location.
Right, I remember when that idea had been floated, yeah.
That might be one of the possible solutions. Another thing, Susan, when Woodmont came in, the road was gonna, Pillsbury would've went straight through that
Right.
corner lot.
Right,
And Gilchrist would've came into a T intersection.
right.
There's been a number of possibilities or things kicked around. And I know, Dave, you were gonna have them take a look at the site distance. Yeah, we already trimmed up all the brush. Yeah, and then the only other thing, like you're saying, the possibility of, traffic from the right does not stop, heading south on Hardy, and then traffic from the left does not stop, heading north on Pillsbury.
Yeah,
Is there any, one of the confusion that I see is people that are coming south tend to believe the people coming east are gonna stop, and they're not.
correct.
Correct.
Is there any way we can put a 2-way thing underneath the stop sign, or is it already
Well,
there?
that's what she's saying though, too, again, so it would be a sign at the bottom of that sign.
Oh, the
heading
stop
south.
signs, says
Yeah.
2-way, like they have up at the next
No,
intersection.
what you would say is, traffic from the
Okay.
right does not stop.
Could we do that as a temporary fix?
We can look at it. So
Okay.
if there
I mean, that would be really inexpensive and, especially for folks that are new to town and they don't, common sense tells you that the folks on Pillsbury are gonna be stopping and they don't.
Yep.
So I never get mad at anybody because it's
So
really awkward
can we-
going through there.
We're running out of time, so can we table this and
I just want to make one comment on this, Lisa, is
Look
that
at it.
at one time that was a 3-way
Oh,
stop. Fred and I have been around a long time. We remember that as a 3-way.
okay.
So Lisa, to cut, and I don't mean to
Go ahead.
to cut this short because we're running out of time.
course.
We're gonna table this and hopefully come up with a solution in the
Thank you.
October meeting. So I'll make a motion to table this till October.
Second.
Okay, do we have a second?
Thank you for your time.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Fred seconded it.
Good. All right, so we'll have that in our next discussion, continue that discussion.
Kelly?
Oh, we got Kelly too. We got time, Kelly?
I think you get the gist, so traffic management and policies and plans are very important to our town manager.
I have one thing that bothered me. When you listed the, and I don't know the page number,